Now, WJZ's Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health.
This is Purple Connection. I'm Alex Glaze. It's time to put Thanksgiving behind us, right? Think about that Bengals game like leftovers. It's been 4 days. Throw them out. Tonight, we're going to focus mostly on Sunday's matchup against Pittsburgh. It's a game that'll put either the Ravens or Steelers in the driver's seat of the division. After starting the season 1-5, John Harbaugh says that all he wanted was for his team to fight for a chance to compete for the division crown, and they're in position to do just that. The Ravens and Steelers are neck and neck in the division race. Here's Harbaugh on his impressions of Pittsburgh.
My impression is that that's the team we got to beat this week. And whatever they are, as we're studying them and however we need to attack them, we're going to put the best plan together we can and play the best football we can on Sunday. That's my impression. That's how I think about it.
All right, John Harbaugh, man, a few words always. Joining me tonight to break it all down, we have Grace Girl, as always, Tim Barbalas, and Cordell Woodland of 105.7 The Fan. All right, John didn't really peel back the curtain and give his impressions, but what are your impressions of this Pittsburgh team? Grace, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, after watching Pittsburgh fall to the Bills, I think you're feeling a little bit better going into this weekend, especially with what the Bills were able to do on the ground. But we'll see if the Ravens can do the same thing when they come to town.
Yeah, Cordell, that Bills game was very interesting to me. When you're watching it, did that game tell you more about Pittsburgh or about Buffalo and where they're at?
Well, I think you got kind of a case of both a little bit. I think Buffalo, their strength offensively at least, has been running the football all year, and they leaned into that in a big way, setting a Pittsburgh Stadium record. I forget how it's said, but they set a record for visiting team rushing yards in that game. Now, Pittsburgh, their defense has been a mess all year. Their calling card has been turnovers, but they haven't really been able to stop anything else. And offensively, I mean, they're as inconsistent as they come. So I think you kind of got what you expect from both teams, honestly.
I've been saying all day on The Fan that this is one of the more bizarre Ravens-Steelers weeks in recent memory, because Pittsburgh, this isn't prisoner of the moment. That was the low point of the Mike Tomlin era for me, where you have the fire Mike Tomlin chants that were extremely audible. Cordell, you mentioned it, that they gave up the most rushing yards in the history of that stadium. And the Bills were without both of their starting tackles in that one. You had the fans boo Renegade, which is completely unheard of in that stadium. It is a mess in Pittsburgh right now. And yet here both teams are playing for first place on Sunday in Baltimore.
Yeah, we're talking about 249 rushing yards for the Bills. Guys, coming out of Thursday's game, if we do want to go back to that Thanksgiving matchup against the Bengals for a second, a lot of people were wondering what happened to Derrick Henry, right? 10 touches, 60 yards. If you watched that game yesterday and you saw James Cook run all over that defense, I mean, if Todd Monken doesn't hand the ball off to Henry and find at least 30 touches for him on Sunday, I mean, that's going to be just criminal.
I think that was the most frustrating part of watching that Thanksgiving game, is just like you're watching their guy go and you're like, well, we have a guy that can do that. He's actually one of the best in the league. And it was kind of, especially in that second quarter. I mean, I was listening to the second quarter on radio, and they were even talking about, like, we can't see, we don't know where Derrick Henry is. He hurt? Like, they were trying to get an injury update because it was that blatant.
And Tim, what stood out to me today from, or Cordell, I should say, because you were there at the presser, John talking about game script dictated, having to move Henry out, and then Rasheen Ali stepping into more of a Justice Hill for pass protection reasons. That stood out to me because, again, we've talked for weeks on this show about just the Ravens being the Ravens and asserting who they are, and never really kind of bending the knee to say to someone else, to their opponent. I didn't think there was ever a point where the Bengals were running away with that game and the Ravens needed to abandon the run. It seemed like the way that they did so early. I mean, we're talking about the second quarter after Derrick Henry ripped off a 28-yard run. How did you feel when John was kind of explaining the reasoning behind Derrick's lack of production? Well, lack of usage, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you talk about the game script and what they were doing at the time, which was straight up drop back passing. They had pretty much committed to just attack that Bengals defense through the air, which isn't the worst idea considering how porous that defense has been against the pass this year. We saw what the Bears did to them a couple of weeks ago. We saw what the Jets did at the end of that game and that miraculous comeback. But also, like you said, Alex, you got to be who you are. And yeah, they didn't run a lot of plays, but a lot of that is due to them turning the ball over the way that they did, and also them just completely forgetting about the run game. That was still a game. The defense was holding the Bengals offense to field goals. That was the time to continue to lean into that run game that was so good on the first drive. So I get his reasoning, but I also say that they're a part of the reason why they were in the position that they were in.
Yeah, I just think it was stunning all the way around offensively, where that Bengals defense was historically bad. They went 10 straight games giving up 26 or more points, and the Ravens scored 14 points. And it was even more surprising considering that they've been slow starters, this Ravens offense. They went right down the field, scored a touchdown on their opening drive, and then their next 6 full possessions, you can take out the one to end the half that was 10 seconds, their next 6 possessions, they didn't score at all. It was shocking, even with Lamar Jackson not being 100%.
Yeah, guys, this Ravens offense has really looked out of rhythm for the past couple of weeks. Lamar Jackson hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 weeks, believe it or not. It's just everyone's trying to figure out what's going on with Lamar. For weeks, it seems like players have been talking about execution being the issue. So after Thursday's game, I asked some of the players if they believe that they can get things back on track. Here's Derrick Henry and Ronnie Stanley.
I feel like we can just have confidence in my team. I won't never say no that I don't think we're able to get over the hump.
I just know that I believe and I'm confident that we're going to figure it out. And I know we are because, I'm going to make sure that, this offense gets going to the way it's supposed to be.
All right, guys, we kind of touched on the issues throughout these first couple of minutes, but we're talking about 5 turnovers on Thursday. Lamar is off. Zay hasn't had a touchdown since week 1. Even though he's been heavily involved in the offense. They're getting away from Derrick Henry. It doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason for why they're doing anything. Just, do you think that things can get back on track? Grace, we'll start with you.
Well, I wanted to ask this question too, just because we've talked about it all week, but to Tim and Cordell, at the beginning of the season, it was like, okay, we had so many weapons. We could talk about there. This was the stacked team to win a Super Bowl. They did everything that they could to put this roster together. And it was almost like, for a minute, it's like, okay, they're out of rhythm, they're out of sync. Yeah, not having Lamar didn't help. But did you ever feel like maybe it's like, okay, they have everybody that are superstars, that we have to get everybody their touches, and they don't know how to establish a cadence with that?
Well, I don't know if I would go that, because you can go back to last year, and you guys don't pick your poison offense. How many times did we hear that last year from the players and the coaches? They had 7 different leading receivers through their first 11 games. Isaiah Likely led the Ravens in receiving on Thanksgiving. That's only the 3rd different leading receiver this year for the Ravens. Zay Flowers, Andrews, Isaiah Likely. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the issue is here, but clearly there's something that's not being talked about, at least publicly. I don't know if it is some kind of, it's tough to figure out what's going on, but there's a reason why things are just not the way that they should be. I mean, this is an offense also. It's mostly the same guys back, right? By and large, I mean, Pat McCary, is he really the only guy on that they had to plug and replace? Other than that, it's the same guys.
Well, they just play so reserved. I think, Cordell, you touched on it. They're just not doing what Ravens football do. They're just not dictating anything. It's almost like they're playing so reserved, and the question is, why?
Yeah, they're in defense mode a lot of the time, and that's not a typical Ravens-style offense. They usually dictate the pace of the game. They dictate the physicality of the game, and that just hasn't been the case this year. But you guys have talked about all the weapons and, whether it's too many weapons or do they not have enough. The reality is, Lamar included, a lot of these guys are just not playing as good as they have in the past. There's not many guys on this offense specifically that you can look at right now and say, okay, they look better than they did last year. And that's, again, Lamar included. And as he goes, they go. But in the past, we've talked about these receivers getting so much separation and separation rate. I don't think it looks the way it has in the past, the way it does right now. So all of them have taken a step back as a collective, and I think it's hurting their product.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to see over these last couple of weeks if they can, in fact, get things back on track, because as you mentioned, Cordell, this team will go as far as Lamar Jackson will take them. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're playing What's the Word? You're watching Purple Connection.
A Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. This is the Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health.
And welcome back to Purple Connection. It's time for What's the Word? I'm going to throw out a phrase, and we're going to fill in the blank. Guys, let's start with some injury news, some good injury news. We got Nate Wiggins day to day dealing with that foot injury. But some other injury news, Justice Hill placed on IR. Obviously a big deal. We're talking about the Ravens' second-string running back. So let's start with Justice Hill being placed on IR is what, Cordell?
Concerning. It's concerning. Anytime you hear a neck issue, we dealt with it with Nnamdi Madubuike earlier this season. He goes on IR out of nowhere. His season's over. Now, thankfully for Justice Hill, it doesn't seem like he is in that same situation. As Harb said, it's more of a 3 to 4 week type of thing. And he does expect Justice to come back at some point this season, which is great news because, again, you just never know with these neck injuries. But still, until I see him back out there, it's still very concerning for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go problematic. And we've seen Justice Hill miss a couple of games now. You saw him miss the Browns game, and there was a pass that went off Keaton Mitchell's hands that ended up being returned for a touchdown in that one. And then also the game Thanksgiving, of course, where he wasn't in there. Rasheen Ali, he was a healthy scratch for a few weeks at that point, and he ends up leading the team, leading the running backs in snaps because obviously this team doesn't really trust Derrick Henry or Keaton Mitchell in pass protection roles. Justice Hill's a glue guy and was an unsung hero, especially last year, but this year as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo Cordell and say concerning. I mean, we're talking pass pro. Justice is a guy that made all of his money off of, was it one series when he blocked Chris Jones that first game last year or 2 years ago? That's what got Justice paid, so he's clearly going to be missing the pass pro game. All right, moving on. The Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely, I think everyone's been waiting for the breakout game from him. 95 yards, the Ravens' leading receiver on Thanksgiving. Grace, you feel what after watching Isaiah Likely's performance on Thanksgiving?
Excited. Like, quite frankly, just because he, wasn't available at the beginning of the season, and then I think it took him a while to get into the cadence and rhythm himself, and then the team was kind of down. They were 1-5, so it's hard to come into that. But I was excited. I hate that performance was kind of overshadowed by the fumble at the goal line, but still, with the amount of production they got of him, I think that's exciting.
I sort of go confused, Alex, and you said it, you keep waiting and waiting for this breakout, and it's unfortunate that he suffered that foot injury during training camp, and I think he's still being hampered with it, but this is sort of feeling like a lost year for Isaiah Likely, unfortunately, and it's coming at a terrible time with him being in a contract year. This tight end room heading into the year was billed as one of, if not the best in all of football, but you just haven't seen the consistency out of the three guys.
I think it's encouraging. That's the word that I'll go with. I think a lot of people have been waiting for the Likely game. I mean, last year, it kind of was the 1-2 combo with he and Mark Andrews. Charlie Kohler kind of stepped up in a bigger way this year. So it's encouraging to see Likely get more involved. He can still roll, still block, still has great hands. Got to hold on to that ball going over the goal line. He knows that. But I love seeing guys try to make plays. Cordell, what do you have?
Yeah, I'm conflicted, because kind of like Grace said, I thought it was exciting to see Isaiah Likely get back to making some of those splash plays that we're used to seeing, especially in the scramble drill. He is Lamar's guy when Lamar breaks out of the pocket and is looking to make some of those second and third play type of throws. And for Likely to have that fumble at the goal line, that changed everything. That changed the momentum in the game. That changed the way that it felt like that the guys were playing out there. The offense just did not have that same type of steam that they had after that Likely fumble at the goal line. So it's a shame that play is what that game is going to be remembered for, because other than that, I thought Isaiah Likely looked like Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, and our last one here, we're going to touch on Zay Flowers, the Ravens last year, 1,000-yard receiver. This year, he's having a good year, but still, just doesn't. There feels like we're waiting for more from Zay Flowers for most of the guys in this offense as well. So the last one here, Cordell, I'll start with you. Zay Flowers not having a touchdown since week 1 is what?
It's disappointing because that was the big thing for me coming into this year for Zay that I wanted to see him build on. He had the 1,000-yard season last year. He had 5 touchdowns in his rookie season. That still stands as his career high. He gets that first one week 1. You're like, okay, Zay is going to be a consistent part of this pass game, we know, but now he'll be able to take that explosiveness to the next level and start turning some of those 30-yard chunk plays into 50-yard touchdown scores. And that just has not been the case. And I know a lot of people, I might upset people with this, but and people have called Zay wide receiver one. You can't be wide receiver one with one touchdown on the year going into week 14. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, I'll echo that, Cordell. Disappointing or frustrating because we've seen him be in those spots to make those big plays, but he's had a couple drops this season as well in crucial moments. So, yeah, I mean, there's just nothing else to say about that. I will say about the rhythm, though, like we said it with Likely, we say it with Flowers. I do think with Lamar not being in there and them not getting off to the start that they wanted to, I do think that affects everybody. It's like, okay, everybody's kind of off this year just because they missed Lamar for 3-4 weeks there, and that's tough when the team isn't going.
Hold on, Cordell. Hold on. We gotta address something really quick. You can't talk about Zay like that, like he didn't play 2 games with Cooper Rush, okay? Like, his numbers are a little off, the touchdowns aren't there, the targets are there. I mean, also, the pass interference, what was that on Thanksgiving? I mean, Zay, he's still the guy, he's still wide receiver one for this team. I don't think that's even a question.
It's got to be a question. He needs more touchdowns. I mean, I'll give you the Cooper Rush games, but a wide receiver one elevates his backup quarterback. He's there for his backup quarterback, and the pass game took a complete nosedive other than that one game Tyler Huntley got in. And to Zay's credit, he played well in that game. But I expect more. When you're a wide receiver one in 2025, you got to put up some real numbers. I'd like to see those touchdown numbers get above 5.
Who's your number one then, Tez?
TBD. TBD.
Hold on. I'm going to take most of that off of Zay, though. Their whole red zone offense has been a problem this year. That's on Todd Monken, not being more imaginative and getting his guy more involved down in the red area.
Sure, but it's turning into we went from 5 touchdowns rookie year, 4 last year. We're down to 1 now. I mean, at what point do we start to say, all right, maybe he's not a touchdown machine? Like, don't get me wrong, Zay's still a really good receiver. I think I have no problems with Zay as a receiver. But wide receiver one, we're talking about a guy that you can run your offense through week in and week out that's putting points on the board. Zay's got 1 touchdown on the year. I would like to go through the list of wide receiver ones around the league and see how many touchdowns they have compared to Zay.
Cordell wants Zay to go full A.J. Brown, break out the book on the sideline. I mean, send the cryptic. Well, Zay did delete his Instagram, so he's not on social media right now. So Cordell wants the full A.J. Brown treatment. That's what we want?
I just want to see I want the full Zay experience. And I think Zay is capable of much more than what he has done. Grace mentioned the drops. He had the fumble as well. You got wide receiver one carries a heavy load. Be that guy. I think he can be, but go do it.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to check in with what happened around the league. Stay with us. More Purple Connection after this.
A Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. The League Checkup, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. Care bravely.
Hey, welcome back to Purple Connection. An interesting day around the NFL on Sunday, to say the least. A lot of storylines we could go with, but here are the storylines that stood out to us. Let's go all the way back to Thursday first, because I think one of the bigger storylines is the Chiefs' season over? Patrick Mahomes throws 4 touchdowns, but Chiefs can't beat the Cowboys. The Bears dominate on the ground, get a statement win over the Eagles. And then C.J. Stroud comes back after missing 3 weeks with a concussion yesterday and gets the win over the Colts. Sorry, Ashley, and Ashley's dad. And then a big one. The Panthers stun the Rams at home. Just a wild Sunday. Grace, what stood out most to you?
Well, I came from Charlotte before moving to Baltimore, so I was watching that Carolina game, and I loved it for Carolina because that is a suffering franchise. That's like the franchise you're like, oh, I forget they have a football team down there, you know? But, like, to do that over the Rams, I will say, out of all the stunners, I'm not in on the Panthers. Like, I just know that franchise and organization too well, but I think that was a great win for them. Good for Bryce Young after he hasn't kind of lived up to expectations, but I do think it was just a really bad day for the Rams. Those Cali boys coming over, not in the Dome. It was raining there, so.
Is that 9 wins for Carolina?
It's 7 wins for Carolina, so they're
7.
6-7 right now, which is the most since they made the play. They might make the playoffs. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Tim?
I would say they definitely were the biggest one, but to go to a different game, what Chicago did going into Philadelphia and absolutely bullying them, running the ball for over 240 yards, 250 yards in that one. Jalen Hurts, he fumbles on a tush push. And Chicago, who would have thought they'd be the number 1 seed this deep into the season? But they're great at taking the ball away. They're great in turnover margin. And that's typically bodes well for top teams.
Ben Johnson.
Yeah. Cordell, which game stood out most to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Panthers one for sure. I think the Panthers are a sneaky team that is growing right before our eyes, including Bryce Young, who is, I don't think Sunday was a fluke. He's been trending in that direction for the last couple of weeks. But I did want to hit on the Chiefs game because that's a big loss. And everybody's got their eye on the Chiefs because they don't look good right now. And if you want to be honest, the last few regular seasons, they haven't looked great. But they still find a way to turn it on in January. Until that team is eliminated, I'm not going to count them out. But I will say I am more concerned about this Chiefs team now than I have been because, look, Mahomes is playing great.
Yeah.
That is not their problem. Quietly, their defense can't stop anybody all of a sudden. And that becomes a major issue when you get into this time of year, especially when you're trying to slow down opposing teams' run games. If that defense can't carry their load, then that Chiefs team really will be in trouble.
Yeah,
I'm with Cordell. Like, you can't until the Chiefs say mathematically eliminated, and they're like, all right, then we're.
Yeah, well,
good.
Ashley, if you could pull up, I believe we have a graphic that shows the playoff picture for the AFC. The Chiefs have a big game next Sunday night against the Texans. That basically is an elimination for them because if you look at the way things are currently stacked, all these teams would have the advantage or the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. So if they don't beat the Texans, their season is essentially over.
They have to run the table because, like you're saying, Alex, the Bills beat them, the Colts beat them, the Chargers won in the first matchup against them. Obviously, they're not going to catch Denver. They have to run the table to make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a break, wrap up the show. When we come back, you're watching Purple Connection.
A Purple Connection, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. And now, Game Day Advice, brought to you by Rice Law. For the best advice, call Rice.
And welcome back to Purple Connections. We wrap up the show, our Game Day Advice, as we turn the page to the Steelers game. It's pretty simple. Bury the Bengals game. Next 2 games are against division opponents. 2 of the next 3 games are at home. A lot riding on these next couple of games. The Ravens have an opportunity to get in the driver's seat of the division. Got to take advantage of this opportunity. So, Grace?
Yeah, look, you flush the Bengals game and you hope that they get the ground game going. If there's anything to be said about December, it's that they have one of the best running backs in the month of December. Last December, Derrick Henry averaged 114 yards on the ground in 4 games. Let's see some vintage December and January Derrick Henry.
I know this isn't a true must-win, but this is a must-win for me. You have to bury the Steelers while they're down. You have to kick them while they're down. Commit to the ground game. And also, even though that Steelers defense is really, really struggling, they're second in the league in turnovers forced. They had 2 takeaways in the first half of that Buffalo game, and that's how they were leading at half.
Yeah, before we get to Cordell, I want to bring up our question of the week. Who needs to have the biggest game for the Ravens to beat the Steelers on Sunday? Big question, a loaded question. Cordell, give you first crack at it.
Well, I guess who needs to have the biggest game? I guess probably Derrick Henry, because you'd like to see them do exactly what Buffalo did and just run the ball all over them. But I think all of them need to take care of the ball because, like Tim said, if the only way to give that team life is to turn the ball over, that's the one thing that defense does really well.
I'm going to say the offensive line because one thing that stood out to me from yesterday's game was what TJ Watt said after the game. He'd never seen a team run the same play that many times and have that much success. So this is going to come down to the offensive line for me.
Yeah, look, they're going to need to get pushed. You're going to need to convert on third downs and also convert in the red zone when you get your chances there. They're 30th in red zone offense. They have to get touchdowns in this football game.
I would say Derek or Lamar, but according to Cordell, maybe Zay.
Maybe Zay. All right, that's going to do it for this week's Purple Connection. Big game on Sunday. The Ravens take on the Steelers. We're going to talk more about the game throughout the week. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.